Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Rebecca Gatehouse from Professional Advantage. I'm going to introduce to you today two concepts, and it's all around the concept of, are your account reconciliations in good shape? The first concept I want to introduce you to is what's referred to as enhanced finance controls and automation, and the second thing is a software-based solution called Blackline that enables financial controls and automation. Now, there's lots of big, lovely words there, so let me put it more simply to you. How to achieve your financial period close faster and accurately through automated reconciliations and ultimately report quicker, and also telling you about Blackline. I'm joined here on this webinar today with two of the brains behind Blackline in Australia, James Perthera, the Director of Sales in Australia and New Zealand, and Anne Furlong, the Director of Operations in APAC. A little bit of administration first, particularly around questions. We welcome any questions throughout. Obviously, you're all in listen-only mode, so you can't voice them. However, in your control panel, you'll be able to write your questions down, and at the end, I'll read them out, and we'll get them answered by myself, James, or Anne. So our lives, and particularly as accountants, is one of peaks and valleys. The innovation in our world is never-ending. Technology is at our fingertips, making much of our lives simpler and convenient. But the financial close is still in the valley for a lot of organisations. Account reconciliations are in spreadsheets, matching transactions from different systems manually, intercompany transactions are done manually through spreadsheets. It's a daily grind, and some of you may recall an older expression of tag and tie for manual reconciliations. And this is a reality for lots of organisations still. Despite all the technology we have at our disposal, our lives as accountants are still tied to statutory cycles, and that's a shame. And Blackline has actually proven that there is a better way. So slowly you should start seeing a very hand-drawn but pertinent drawing of the ins and outs of the financial close period, where things go, the various arrows, who's involved, and it basically highlights that it's all manual. And ultimately, the end outcome is that reporting takes too long. It's inefficient, there's bad control, and there's not a lot of visibility for yourselves, for your managers, for CFOs, and particularly for auditors. And in the face of our challenge to manage these critical month-end processes in a manual way, our lives as accounts will continue to get more challenging. The requirements placed on us are going to grow. They're going to get more demanding. Our roles and our jobs and our organisations we work for are going to get more complex. And the trust that people put in us and our roles is greater than anything else in the business world. It is the most critical trust relationship. The role to reconcile the books, validate and report to the outside world is the highest trust relationship. So if you look at some of the stats here done by Ventana Research, a very reputable research organisation, you'll see that where there's manual processes in place, 73% of organisations are 6+ days. Now some of that's 15 days, 20 days till they're reporting, meaning that everything's in the past. You know, we're almost into another period before we're finding out the results from the earlier periods. Now I referred to enhanced financial controls and automations earlier, and I didn't make it up. It's actually a gap in the market that Gartner, one of the most largest global research organisations, has identified. And they've realised and identified that there's a gap in what ERPs can provide organisations. And there is a requirement for enhanced financial controls and automation. And this is exactly the space and the solution that Blackline fills. So as I've alluded to, there is a better way. There's a way to make our lives better, to report quicker, and to get the governance and control that we look for. And this is at a high level, and James and Anne are going to explain this in a lot greater detail for us, that the high-level benefits or the main benefits of implementing technology like Blackline to help with your month-close processes. So it brings about efficiency and speed. It automates simple low-value-add processes, which James is going to explain. In real time, you can get dashboards and reporting and visibility about how the process is going and where you're at. And governance and control is particularly important in this day and age, but also historically has always been important, but it's very difficult to say you have governance and control when you're doing things manually. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to James, who's the Director of Sales of Australia and New Zealand for Blackline, as I mentioned. He's been working with Blackline for several years now, and has, I guess, witnessed how Blackline has helped lots of other organisations overcome these challenges.
Okay, well, thanks, Rebecca, and thanks, everybody, for taking the time to take a look at Blackline. We really appreciate it. As Rebecca mentioned, I'm the Director of Sales for the ANZ region. So, yeah, we've had a great success locally here. We'll walk through a bit of our history in just a moment. But some high-level information about Blackline as a company, as you can see here. So we're a US-based software company, headquartered in LA. And we were very much the pioneer in a space that Gartner has recently recognized, as Rebecca mentioned there, around enhanced financial controls and automation. And where we really started was in the area of general ledger account reconciliation. And what we did from there was expand out into different parts of the financial close process. And what our clients tend to do then is be able to have their entire financial close in one single central web repository. So I'll click on to the next slide here, and what you'll be able to see is some information about our business around that. We're truly a global company at this point. So there's more than 100,000 accountants that are logging into this, this web tool to help with their financial close process each month. So as I mentioned, our headquarters is in Los Angeles. We also have offices locally in Sydney and Melbourne, also New York, Chicago, Atlanta, London, and we are opening offices in Southeast Asia and also Europe. And the next slide that you can see here, I've just got a couple of our local clients in this region to give you an idea of the sort of industries and sizes of companies that use our software. And I guess the point to take away here is there's really a variety. So we're applicable across all kinds of different business types and also business sizes. We've got users that have got anywhere from just 3 users of the application up to several thousand. And the reason for that really is because of our software as a service deployment methodology. So it's really designed to be a tool that's scalable and applicable to any finance organization where there's some manual and Excel-based processes that we can help to automate and get some better governance around. Now, to drill a little deeper into a point that Rebecca raised around process efficiency, and particularly in this instance, return on investment, what you can see on your screen now, on the right-hand side is a little screenshot from our application, and it covers 10 different rules for what we call system certification. So this applies to your simple and low-risk account reconciliations that can be automated based on rules, right? So you've got zero balance accounts, accounts of no activity, sub-ledger matches, things of those nature where as long as it meets that simple criteria, then we're comfortable for that to be an automated reconciliation. Now, what you can see on the left side of the screen is some of our local clients and what proportion of their reconciliation process has been automated leveraging those rules. So again, point to make is what these companies have achieved has been reducing the financial close time by automating the simple tasks and just freeing up their accountants to focus on more of those value-add activities. So that being said, I'll now hand over to my colleague Anne Furlong, who is our Director of Operations. Now, Anne actually joined us from Tabcorp, which is obviously one of our marquee clients in Melbourne. Now, at Tabcorp, Anne had responsibility for a project to revamp their financial close process. So as part of that, she identified and selected and implemented Blackline and also had ownership of administering the tool moving forward. So very much went through that experience and now heads up our operations group. So, Anne, I will hand over to you.
Okay, thanks, James. So really what we're going to do is go back to basics. So really what we're trying to understand is what is an account reconciliation? So people might think, oh, we don't need to do them, but we need to go down to the basics of what they are. It really is the substantiation of the general ledger account to a third-party document, whether it's a bank statement or it's a sub-ledger balance or an invoice. It's more than just does my trial balance, because that will occur within an ERP system. But it's more about why do we do them and what are they. So let's look at a sample reconciliation. So here we can see we've got the name of the account, we've got a GL balance being $5,500 and no identified difference. So on the face of this account now balances, and it's a petty cash account. What we're going to do is now dig a little bit deeper and drill down into that $5,500 and show the detail of what makes up that balance. And what you'll see on the screen now is that we have 3 transactions, all totaling $5,500. So on the face of it, it does reconcile. But what is wrong with this reconciliation? So petty cash really is the sum of all the cash that's in a float somewhere, and what we'd expect to see is just pure recognition of the cash floats. What we wouldn't expect to see in there is any journals relating to expense accruals. So in that case, this is where we can identify that even though the account balance is $5,500 and there's no unidentified difference, there is an error or a mistake within the actual account itself. And this drives the reason why we need to do reconciliations, because from a trial balance perspective, this ties out, but from the actual substance of the account, the balance is not truly substantiated. So, in summary, why do we need to reconcile accounts? It comes down to financial reporting accuracy. So really, it's more than just does my trial balance balance. The account reconciliation is one of the most undervalued and underappreciated parts of the accounting system. But they're very, very important because they are a key control because they report up into the financial reports. These are what are used to present the board reports to the board and to the stock exchange. And really what we need to try and do in reconciliations is understand the nature of the account and reveal mistakes. So that could be mispostings, as an example of an accrual going to a petty cash account, any duplicate entries, any system errors. From a management perspective, we have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that we identify fraud before it's too late. We've got to look after our shareholders. But overall, the reason why we do it is the quality reconciliation substantiates the account balance rather than just repeating the activity in the general ledger, because ERP systems are very good at doing that. So really then what BlackLine provides when we talk about a solution to automate the reconciliation process, in relation to provide efficiency, speed and visibility. So thereby we can actually see what's going on at any point in time. We're actually speeding up the whole close process, but not decreasing or devaluing the quality of the close, thus producing a greater control over the financial close, and then ultimately reduce costs and risks. If we know what's going on, we have better control over it, we can then move that one forward, and that's what BlackLine provides for us. So we're going to take a step back. So we thought about what is a reconciliation, but now let's think about what is a world-class process. So this is a circle that goes through a number of dates, and this really is something that needs to be reviewed on an ongoing basis. Not we do it once and then we leave it and never look at it again. It's all about ensuring that we go through this process on a cyclical event to make sure we're actually maintaining it. So key thing is standardization. So whatever solution you bring in, you need to have standardization. This ensures that everyone knows what they need to do, how it needs to be presented, and what needs to happen with that. That then follows through into control. So the idea is that everyone knows from a preparer's perspective, from an approver's perspective, what is the workflow? What's the governance around the reconciliation process? How do we know that things are right? What's our escalation points? And with that, in the global world that we live today, we need to have availability 24/7, 365 days. The old days when it used to wait till the next morning isn't available anymore. In the 24/7 global operation, we need to make sure that you can get access to the information at any time. And also, people in different states can view that information without having to email from one person to the other. So with the standardization and control, we now need to provide training. So training is fundamental in ensuring that people know what they need to do, how they need to do it, and ultimately why they're doing it. So we start driving that consistency around the process and not only focusing on preparers, but also driving that accountability across to the approvers. They're not just rubber stamping a reconciliation, they're adding value into the close process. And with that, we need to ensure that whatever solution you have has the ability to document policies and procedures and make that information available real time. There's no point having that information stored in a dusty binder on the shelf or in Post-it notes, or having that intellectual property stored in somebody's brain. It's got to be available and accessible 24/7. So let's look at Blackline and what we can offer. So at the top, we see that we have a number of source systems. So we have accounting systems. You might have a third-party customer solution. You might have your journals, close tasks coming through. All that information then gets fed into Blackline. And then what we'll then see that comes out of it is some information that gets passed through to different preparers or approvers across the organisation. So within our application, we have 15 roles, and they're split between the doing roles. So people are active within that workflow process, so preparing and signing off reconciliations. We then need to have the ability to have controllers be able to view the reconciliations at any point in time to see if there's any issues or concerns that need to be followed up on. We also need a solution that's going to provide access to your auditors. You're not having to go back and print documentation for the auditors. You have the ability of having that information available to them, and you're being able to guide on what access they have within that application. And so within the Blackline solution, we have a financial close suite, and we have 6 modules. Now the main point of this webinar today is really to focus on that module in the top left, which is the account reconciliations. That is the foundation of the application, the core product for our solution. But alongside that, we have other modules that help with that overall close process. So it's not just, can I get my recs done? It's all about what else can I do to improve that process. So we have the transaction matching, for example. So not only can we do a balance sheet reconciliation, so GL balance equals a third-party document when I'm reconciled, I can also get down into the debits and credits, so I can do a transaction-by-transaction reconciliation. An example could be my inventory to my warehouse or to my general ledger. So not only do I see that my total balances agree, but every debit and credit can be matched off correctly and identify any timing issues. To help monitor that, we also then have the task manager. This helps us to be able to see what we need to do at any point in time and be able to track and ensure that we have that governance not only across the account recs, but have our journals being processed, have our critical payments being processed, have we done everything that's required of us to complete the month-end close, so greater visibility. We then have on the bottom tier, we have the variance analysis. So it's more than just do my books balance, but can I explain any material movements from one period to the next? So it could be year on year, quarter on quarter, or year to date if I'm looking at my P&L. So it's identifying any dollar or percentage movements to be able to explain and provide greater visibility in the reporting space. So it's not just waiting until I complete my books. I can look at this throughout the close. We also then have the journal entry, so we have 3 options available within the application. We can create our journals and have them pass through for approval and then feed into your ERP system. We also have the ability to continue with your current process of preparing journals and have them parked, waiting to be approved in Blackline, and then have those then released back into your accounting system. Or the third option is you can use Blackline as truly a reporting repository for the journal. So when it comes to an audit, your auditors and managers also have one space they can reach out for reconciliation, touch their journals, touch their checklist as well. And for companies that need to do consolidations, what we have is the ability to reconcile your consolidated books, your financial statements, back down to your operational books. So we're really tying back between the data in the account recs and the consolidation books. Ultimately, with our financial close suite, what we're providing is that real-time monitoring process and greater visibility across the close. So the benefits and highlights of using a tool like Blackline is that it can be used across the whole of the trial balance. So it's not just balance sheet. We can use it for our prepayments, our accruals. We can look at it across any P&L accounts that require reconciliation, for example, depreciation expense or revenue. We have the ability to focus on the exceptions. So as James presented, we have those auto certification rules. So we can actually now free ourselves up from doing the very basic low-level reconciliations like zero balance or subledger matches and focus on the problem accounts. So let's raise the quality of those reconciliations and make sure that we're focused on the problems rather than the easy stuff. Standardization through templates and the ability to attach supporting documentation in the tool, and ultimately workflow. We can always see what's going on within the application and also rejections if something needs to be changed in the tool. It's real time, it's global access, so any time, as soon as you access the internet, you can access this solution and be able to complete your work. It's also multi-currency and it's ERP agnostic, so we can work with any solution out there. So what you'll see on your screen now is, why do clients or why do companies want to buy the BlackLine solution? What's in it for them? So companies will continue thinking, well, I've got my Excel solution, nothing wrong with that. But what really drives the customer to come to have BlackLine as a solution is return on investment. So we've got some examples there where we have Cox Communications had a return on investment 227% in a 6-month payback period. So the return on investment helps to drive the greater granularity and visibility from the close process, but that's done through the auto certification rules within the application, so focusing on the problems rather than the very easy no-brainer reconciliations. We also have increased staff productivity because people are focused on the problems. They're not having to save down each month the same Excel reconciliation, print out supporting documentation and put in a file. Again, you're only having to roll forward what's changed from the prior period. No longer having to print the reconciliations and put them in binders and store them, so all that gets removed. It results in a faster close. A number of our clients have actually seen several hours of FTE savings, have seen time being saved in the close process. Some examples of 1 to 2 days coming off their current process, just moving to BlackLine. So it really just helps with that return on investment and ultimately cutting costs. So what we're going to do now is focus on a bit about what some of the views are in BlackLine. So what you can see here is an executive dashboard. So dashboards help with understanding what's going on real time. So there's no reliance on waiting for a warehouse, a data warehouse, to be updated. At any point in time, dashboards can be looked at and they're constantly being updated to identify not only the status of the accounts, so where they're in the process, but also what's the required adjustment, what's the risk and opportunity that I need to be able to manage into my business and be able to move that forward into my P&L. So helping to have that information available real time is very powerful to the managers of the business. From the dashboards, we have the ability then to drill down into what we call our accounts grid. Now for each role that we have within the application, they'll have a slightly different view of the accounts grid. So in this one we're looking at the preparer view, but very quickly we can see what the status is for the reconciliation, whether it's been auto-certified or a key account, what the overall value is that we have to explain, what the risk rating is, so we can manage how we're going to process those reconciliations and the timing when they're going to complete within the application. And drilling down into what a reconciliation looks like, here we have an example of a bank account. So we're not reliant just on having an Excel template. We have the ability to import or key in the bank balance. We can then separate between bank transactions and normal GL transactions. We can add comments and documentation in here. And what we see at the top is the ability to have that transactional information stored within the actual reconciliation. So we have that greater visibility to say, of all those reconciling items on my rec, what was actually the foundation of it? Where was the source of that coming from? So greater visibility. And with that, if we remember back to that world-class process, key information to have within any reconciliation tool is the policy, purpose and procedure. So behind every reconciliation, we have the ability to call out the nature of the account, is it an asset account, what's the requirements of that, but also what's the company policy, what's the purpose, why am I doing that reconciliation. And we also have the ability to call out the key pertinent information, but also have it link out to a document repository, maybe something on your intranet site, so you have that one version of the truth so everyone knows exactly what needs to happen. Another example of a popular template within the Blackline tool is the amortizable reconciliation. So this is where we can have the ability to remove away from having to do Excel schedules for all those prepayments and amortizable schedules that you're working with. You create it in Excel, you roll it forward month after month, but it seems to be, well, if nothing changed, why doesn't the tool manage it for me? That's where Blackline can actually retain, and you can actually import all of those Excel schedules, then throw them away. And what we can then do from this point is, if the sum of the prepayment equals a GL balance, it will auto-certify. So now we're now focusing on where there's a change, not just certifying something for the sake of doing it. And having the ability to attach documentation against the schedule is also very powerful. So in the event of an audit or a manager's query, they can drill directly into it, see what the item relates to, and then say if it's valid or invalid. Now, in that back reconciliation template, we spoke about the transactions. So within the application, we have the ability to import transactional data, and we can display that on the face of the reconciliation. But what if we want to have a greater look into what that actually entails? What we're seeing here is the matched and unmatched grid. So it tells us exactly what's been processed in the tool, so what's been matched, based upon rules that are configured within the application, and then what's left as the unmatched. And those can then be automatically pre-populated onto the face of the reconciliation for the user. What we're moving away from is going through the mechanics of creating a reconciliation. Let the system do that for us, and then we can actually focus on the analysis. So very easy to identify what needs to be processed and what's already been processed. So we've gone through reconciliation, so we're looking at that world-class process. We've gone through dashboarding, we've gone through the templates. What again is a very key and powerful tool within the application that complements the dashboards is our reporting. So you want a solution that's going to be able to give you that real-time management view. So again, we're not waiting for data warehouses to be updated. This information can be pulled at any point in time. We also have the ability to schedule these reports so that when you come in the next morning or in the afternoon, you can log in, check on your report log and see exactly what's going on. So no longer waiting for someone to go away and prepare the reporting pack for you, can already be prepared in the application. So easy to have configure reporting within the application. And not only do we have the standard reports, you also have the ability to have your own personal, your own favourite reports. So allow you to actually have a deeper view into the business and being able to just have a bit of a healthier check on what's going on. And always having the ability to edit your own reports, to be able to add things in, take things out, so it makes it more friendly for you as a user. So what you can see on the screen now is a sample of a very detailed adjustment report. So what we're trying to demonstrate here is that not only does it detail for you the name of the account, probably the status of the actual item, but if it's a required adjustment, this is something I need to know about at a very real time to be able to manage that impact back into my P&L. So I can then see the age of the item, who submitted it if I have any queries. If there's an action plan that it's going to be processed by, I can follow up on that, but also check the age. So if I've got things in my current 30 days, I might not be so concerned about it. But if it's my 60 or 90 days, I can actually run this report and then email this off to other users or use my task module to track what's resolved. So it's very detailed reports that can be modified to meet your own requirements. Now, when speaking about the application, we've got that it's a solution with 6 modules, but what Blackline prides itself on is that it's a software as a service solution. So what does that mean? It means that there's no software to install. It's easy to access it, so it's always available via the internet. So very quick to implement and very easy and scalable. So all that IT effort that is held internally to manage servers and computers and everything else all goes away. We pride ourselves on our ability with software as a service to have hot disaster recovery. So we have premier data centers both in Europe and in the US, and with that we are always pushing our data out. So if anything was ever to occur, we can have our clients up and running in less than 1 hour. So that's a very powerful solution because we recognize that the month end and account recs are very, very important to our clients. We are also very proud to announce that we were the first and only financial close software provider to successfully complete the following information security audit and controls. So these are very powerful audits that we've had to undergo, and these are annual certification. So the ISO 27001, the SSA 16 SOC 1, 2 and 3, so very hard to pass, and we're one of the first, we're the only financial close software provider to achieve that. And then the ISAE 3402 certification as well. So we take the client's data very, very well, we actually recognise the security that we need to have around it, and we don't want our clients to be concerned about it. We'll manage that and bring it into world-class data centres. So really, in summary, what does Blackline offer? So it definitely provides the efficiency, speed and visibility across the financial close process, and with that, what we're going to be able to do is drive the costs down. So through efficiencies, through focusing on the problems, identifying when extra effort and work is required, you can actually reduce your costs and risk, and ultimately enhance or improve your fiduciary responsibility in that financial close process and raise the value of the account reconciliation. So prior to handing back to Rebecca, what we can try and do is really, as you've seen through this presentation, is more about just thinking about Blackline world-class processes, but really something to be leaving with is, does your organisation currently do period-end reconciliations or any other tasks or function within the spreadsheet? If it's done in the spreadsheet, do you have any problems? If so, what are they? Can you relate to any of those items that we spoke about during our presentation? About standardisation, about control and governance, about risk. So something to be thinking about as we move through this webinar.
Thanks, Anne. Thank you for jumping in there and summing that up for me. I guess the ultimate simple question is, as Anne said, does your organisation currently do period-end reconciliations of any nature? It might not be bank, but there's lots of other things out there, or other tasks. You saw that Blackline did cover off lots of other functionality in spreadsheets, and is that a problem? We do have a number of questions, thank you very much to the audience. So what I might do is just run through a few of them and either answer them myself or get James or Anne. The first one is, how much involvement of the IT team is needed to implement this? Maybe James, you could answer that?
Yeah, sure thing. I can talk to that one at a high level. So it's really designed to be a finance-owned project. So again, given it's that software as a service deployment methodology, typically there's a little bit of involvement from the IT side just in the initial setup, but by and large it's very much designed to be owned and administered by the finance team. So kind of a nice thing for our clients, because typically we're dealing directly with the accountants.
And obviously software as a service, so we're not required to get IT's buy-in to buy servers and set up infrastructure. So that breaks down a few of the barriers that we sometimes have. Another one here is, I think Anne and James might have mentioned auditors, our friends, a couple of times. How do they work with this system, Anne?
So what happens is that a client will grant access to the auditors. So what they can then do is log in remotely, so you don't even have to have the auditors come out onto the client site, and they can actually log in and view reconciliations. So what you can do is you have two options. You can either grant them access to certain recs, so they ask for 5 recs, they'll actually be able to view 5 recs, or you can give them global access to view all of the entity reconciliations. The only condition that we always recommend is that they're only allowed to review fully completed reconciliations. So there is there's 2 roles within the Blackline suite that you can provide to your auditors.
Thank you. And does the workflow include warning and escalation emails if recs aren't being done? Maybe James, you could jump in there around,
yeah, sure thing.
Escalation emails if recs aren't being done?
Yep, absolutely. So the application itself has, I believe it's over 60 automated alerts, which is a whole lot of alerts and alarms. You don't have to set all of those. And what our clients usually do is they'll just choose, like, say, 3 or 4 to start off with. But the point to make is it's very much a configurable application where you can pick which alerts and alarms you'd like to have enabled within your particular instance. And the way those work is there's alerts within the application. They're also emailed to the users. So there's automated escalations based on the due dates of reconciliations as they progress through the workflow process.
Okay. We might keep with you, James, because just so everyone knows, Anne's actually had to go over to Jakarta, so she's joining us from Jakarta, who doesn't have as reliable internet as we are blessed with in Australia. So there's just one here. So instead of exporting ledger data into spreadsheets, I now export this to Blackline and then to the Rex on the web, and I can see what my team is doing and where they're up to. Is that a correct statement? One of the listeners was wondering.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summation. I mean, in a nutshell, really, the application is, when we talk about the general ledger account reconciliation module, which is the core one that we focused on today, it's really a series of reconciliation templates. So when we talk about implementation, it's really this one-time effort of mapping the data out of the ERP and the different transactional and subsidiary ledgers and having them pre-populate these templates with the appropriate information, and then having the accountants log in and do their reconciliations using those standardized templates. And moving forward, Blackline then becomes this single central web repository where all reconciliations are maintained, and obviously you saw that layer of dashboarding and reporting that lies over the top. But yeah, that's a pretty fair summation.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, that seems to be all the questions that we had come through on the questions panel. Thank you, James. Thank you, Anne, if you can still hear me. If anyone does require or would like to know a bit more or discuss further, there's quite a number of people at Professional Advantage that can help, but I welcome, I invite you to email me if you have any questions directly, and then we can get back to you. Again, thank you for your time. I hope you found this beneficial, and have a good day.